Back on stands with some tranny fluid leaking out because I am changing the flex plate and that's transmission fluid. So what happens, the starter, old starter here, these have a tendency to get loose. So these were loose, and it was moving on the start, and of course this dug into the flex plate and eventually wore down the flex plate where it would finally find a spot, and it couldn't even start. It would just spin. So I thought it was the starter, so I bought a new mini starter. I wanted to get one anyway, and it started up, but you would still hear, it was weird, whenever you would crank it, you would hear like it would hit those teeth that were bad. And I really didn't think about it. I didn't know what was going on until it hit that spot, and this one poked out and spun. And I was like, oh no, this starter's bad. But then I was thinking, oh no, it's the teeth. And here's the flex plate that I removed. You can see here where it's starting to wear out this tooth. And there's a section, oh yeah, here it is, all shiny. Where it weared out this whole section, so it could grab, even though it looks like it's, I don't know, that's pretty low. So flex plate's bad, and I got the new one, the heavy duty one, to put in. One note on the starter is I'm using new bolts with bolts on the back, so that I can clamp it down from the back as well, because the original ones just had they didn't have a bolt on the back, so that should keep it tight for the future. This is the part that was the most difficult. I had to separate pretty much remove the transmission, the C4 transmission, to get to the flex plate. And there it is. Transmission there. Oops. There's the back of the crank. And I needed all this room to get an impact gun to remove those flex plate bolts. So I was thinking I was just going to be able to remove it just a little bit and separate it and get access, but that was not, I couldn't do that. Not on this build. Here's my wonky exhaust. One of the main reasons why I couldn't, I had to drop the exhaust was because these little guys stick into the transmission, and they don't allow the transmission to move back. I had to remove this to be able to move the transmission out. Luckily it came out pretty easy, but that had to be done. So if I had to do it over again, I would drain the transmission. I did not drain it, which caused issues with the tailpipe. Whenever you're moving this thing, the tailpipe, the end of the transmission where the drive shaft goes into, that started to leak, and then I had to remove the dipstick because I wanted to move the C4 transmission down, and that the housing would touch. So I got I had a lot of fluid come out there, and I cut as much as I could. But if I had to do it over again, I would definitely drain the transmission. Okay, so got the new flex plate installed, and I used a crowbar in here to wedge it up to something in here to keep it from moving, so I could torque them down. and the bolts only go in one way. I mean, they only position one way on the flex plate, so you can't position the bolts in the wrong holes, because it has a weight. The weight has to go in a certain position. The alignment holes will only fit one way. I made sure that the torque converter is seated back. It had pulled out whenever I removed the transmission, so I had to rotate it and do the 3 clicks, click, click, click. So that's in there. Put the bottom bolt and hole here so I could see it a little bit easier when they come together. And now to hook them together.
Prediction? Yes, prediction. Pain.
Well, I decided to make a change in my jack. I went ahead and bought a transmission jack from Harbor Freight, because my homemade version, it was doing this on me a lot. And whenever it goes up, it kind of comes up at an angle, kind of does one of these things. And so that was making it hard to get all my alignment correct. So I have the transmission supported by those 3 jack stands. I'm going to get this all strapped up and try to get a better alignment so I can get those the torque converter studs into the flex plate holes, which I guess has to be, perfectly aligned, because I was having trouble with it. Alright, so here's my problem. That guy doesn't want to seem to line up. Everything is bolted in. Fine. 2 of the 4 go through the hole. Fine. So either I'm not lined up all the way, or the flex plate doesn't fit right. And I didn't pre-fit my flex plate to the torque converter. I'm wishing I did right about now. I might have to unbolt the flex plate and just do a test fit.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
I took off the flex plate to do a test fit because it was just not lining up. And I wanted to see if this thing would even connect, standalone. And I have the same problem. Guys, a couple will fit in, and then this guy will be off. And that's exactly the same problem I had whenever I was installing it. Oh man. So always test fit your flex plate. Okay, so this is the flex plate I bought, the heavy duty Pioneer, I believe, AutoZone, because it was in stock. I got it and said, that'd be easy bolt on, which these are too small. This on the left is a flex plate I got from a Junkyard 302 Explorer that I pulled the engine out, that's going to go in here eventually, but the flex plate had cracked. But I wanted to test fit this one, and this one fits. And so these holes just a little bit bigger than these. So I'm going to open up these to the same size, or pretty close to this, with a well, I'll figure something out to open them up. And this is the flex plate that came off, and I could tell But these were opened up just a little bit. That one for sure. Weapon of choice is going to be die grinder. Okay, first one I'm going to measure is the one I took off. .44. Next one is the Junkyard 302 from Explorer. 0.44. And then the one I bought. It's kind of hard to read it. Hold on. Yeah, 0.35. That's what I've been getting whenever I'm trying not doing this with the camera in my hand. Yep. So 0.43. So these need to come up just a little bit. Finally, it fits. Okay. Where's my last one? Okay, so now there's some rough edges on some of these. So I'm going to use some of the sanding cones on here to smooth them out. Oh, man, looks like I'm going to have to get one of those cones. But I kind of noticed that even though I had it in there, it was a little sticky trying to get it off, like it was catching on some burrs. So I want to make sure all these burrs are off so I could slide in easy. So that's up next. All right, it is in there. Everything lined up good. So that was the trick. Man, I should have pre-fitted it. It would have saved me a couple of days. No joke. And that helped too. But I'm actually going to have to return that because once it gets down to the bottom, it binds up. So if you get one of these, make sure to lube the thread, kind of like a scissor jack down there, because I think it bound up, and I want to keep it. I'm going to get another one, but this one binds up whenever it gets real low, which is basically whenever you have the transmission down. So, but otherwise, yeah, this really helps stabilize it. So next up is bolting everything else up, taking care of some of the wiring. That's live. I mean, it's not live now, but it will be. Need to cover that up somehow. And got the plumbing in there. I need to get the gear selector, and then on to the next.